All right, I'd like to call the July 11th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. First item is to approve the May 9th minutes. Do I have a motion to approve these minutes? Do I have a second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
All right, let's go ahead and we'll go to the staff report. Jack, what do you got?
Couple of things. The construction around town is going on, as you are all aware. You can see it. That looks like the attic storage place is now finally completed and open. And after a long period of looking a little difficult, it cleaned up real nice at the end. So I'm pleased with. From a residential standpoint, we are at 22 single family permits since January with Brandy. You can correct me if I'm wrong, 3 more. Is that correct?
yeah,
Okay. Brandy, how do I get this?
So-
Nope, double
There you
click,
go.
sorry. The big part of the staff report is the new comprehensive plan dashboard. And this has a whole lot of extra stuff on it that I may need to have some assistant. Okay. What's that say? Doc, it contains some. I can just, no. Yeah, just remove the file if I can get it over there. Okay. And I need to move this.
just go ahead and minimize that. There you go, minimize.
Yeah,
it.
it's just a matter of getting the button to work. So in the comprehensive plan, I will try to go through this as efficiently as possible. But in the comprehensive plan, we have action items that come under each of the pillars and goals that we have for each of them. And this lists every action item in the planning or in the comprehensive plan. This document also allows you to sort. So for example, if you just want to look at the housing and neighborhood options, you select that. And hopefully it'll load and take everything out, but there we go. So now it just shows the housing options that are out there. In all of the action items under, and there's a lag, so it's jumping around. I apologize. And each pillar are these 5 rectangles up top. They identify what those are based upon the strategic plan. And so they all come out. They are listed in numerical order. So housing 1.1, 1.2, you work your way down to 5.5, I think it is. And then they all have the priority code. So 1 is low priority, 2 is medium priority, and 3 is high priority. Then you also have a time frame, which is 0 to 3 years, ongoing, 3 to 7 years, and 7 to 10 years. Each of these buttons you can select and it will sort by that button. So we're in the housing. You can select what needs to happen in 0 to 3 years and it'll sort what those options are. It's primarily a tool so that anyone can look at it and get a better understanding of the progress that's being made. For example, over here, you can see the completion activity that we've done. It lists the ordinances that have passed or whatever it happens to be. And as we walk our way through it, you can adjust. Well, if I can get it to move right. If you do a multi-layer search, like in this case, I've had hit housing and then I hit the 0 to 3, it will not switch between things as clearly. So you got to go to reset the filters. And once you reset it, I don't know enough as to how to fix this, but I always have to come back here and readjust the size of it. But once you do that, you can come back and select again. You can bounce between the 5 pillar buttons with no resetting of filters. It allows you to do it. However, and then in this case, you hit the reset filter. Wait a minute, what am I doing here? Sorry. You have to reset. Well, I'm not very. There we go. So once you select one of those buttons, if you want to go to a different view, for example, in this case, if you want to see what are the priority, just the high priority items, and you select it, it pulls up only the 3-star buttons for all 5 of the pillars. And you can look at it that way. It gives you ability to layer. There's also the status bars. You can see the flags. You can select by the status of which ones are complete or not. In our comprehensive plan, we have several items that are identified as bold steps. If you select that, it'll just pull up the bold stepped items in it. The plan with this is to, the creator of this document is Myra Toothman, who used to be in the finance department, now in the public works department, and is apparently a guru at Excel because she did all of this. I sit down with her and discussed what we were hoping to see. And she came up with this. It's a very, very easy document. The plan will be to, when she gets back in town, fix a couple of bugs that have been identified since I've been working on this for several hours now. We'll have her fix a couple of those bugs, and then we're going to put it on the city website. So the citizens or you all or anybody can pull it up. You'll open it. It's an Excel document, and you'll be able to do all that sorting, however you want to do it. It allows you to have a better understanding of what progress is being made. It gives you a better understanding of what the comprehensive plan itself identifies. And we can go through it from that perspective.
So Jack, I have a question.
Mhm.
On locating that out on the website, will that be under documents?
It will be both as a document, but we're going to create a landing page under, when you pull up the comprehensive plan, it's already a page. You select it and we'll put a tab on there that says, for the dashboard.
Okay, thank you.
A lot of that stuff is contingent upon some of these little minor bugs being worked out and some language changes that need to occur on some of the smart stuff. I can do all the dumb stuff, but I can't do the smart stuff. When she gets back, we'll get those things corrected. We will be identifying it to the board next week as well. Don't want to really give a big pat on the back to Myra now because she's not here to get the accolades from the people that are going to be seeing it and using it. So when she comes back, we'll do it in August as well. Because she did a bang up job. This is a really good document.
Is
And
there a possibility, or maybe this isn't the works, but get all the other plans in a format similar to this?
Yes, that is under, once this was revealed, and Cynthia and I met with Myra on it. It was, and this, we've been working on this for several months. The first version was very impressive at the time. So the one for the strategic plan has already occurred. The comp plan is the one that this best fits for because there are several different things to sort through. They are working on the strategic plan itself to get it into a dashboard similar to this. And the same with all the other plans, that will be as data can get entered. Yes, that is the goal here.
Transportation.
Yep. Transportation, Parks and Rec, probably not the sewer and the water master plans, simple because they are, there's giant documents, but they're also not, there's not a lot of policy considerations. It's this will break if we don't do this scenario. So there's not a, and there is a separate page for those plans. And I forget the name of it, but it's basically a plan update or a work progress update that's going on of all the projects that the city has out, water line, sewer line work, whatever. There's a project page where you can go look at the project in your neighborhood or in a neighborhood and see what the status is, where they're at. They update it weekly, I believe. So that's the comprehensive plan dashboard. Hopefully over the next year or so. Now that we're working through this a little more, we'll be able to get thoughts and ideas and comments from people other than just inside staff that have been working on things here.
Yeah, another thing I would recommend, is just, I mean, Excel is great, but I mean, just try to find a more like web friendly way to present that using some kind of data science tool or something. I mean,
Yeah.
there's stuff out there you can try.
You're way over my head. Excel's over my head, so. But yes, whatever the options are, having this functionality though, from my perspective is,
That's nice.
yeah, very nice. And the big thing is it allows the public to have direct interaction with what they want to see. They don't have to figure out what question they want to call and ask me or somebody at City Hall. They can literally look at it and that'll get updated every time something that's on that list under the completion activity. Whenever any work's done, that'll be immediately added. The progress changes. Like on the far left, you see the little rainbow thing. That is no activity to completed activity, where we're at in it. It's kind of hard to have that completion activity if it's an ongoing item, because that's something you have to do regularly, but we're still trying to work out the bugs on how that should look. Some of these things can tweak pretty easily. The goal will be to have an instruction manual to put on the website, and I will be giving a snippet for Cynthia for her staff report for the board meeting next week that kind of identifies it. And it'll be the kind of the beta version that will go out next week to the board and on the packet. So it will not be the final version. We won't have the web page and all that stuff. And that's all I have in the staff report.
Any questions for Jack? Rob on Zoom, you good?
I am good as a self-professed Excel nerd. This is fantastic.
Good. Brandy is, there we go. Now we're back to the meeting itself.
All right. We'll go ahead and move on to a public hearing for a conditional use permit to operate a transfer station on I-1 property at 14820 North Industrial Drive. Brandy, do we have any?
I don't have any comment cards for number 4 unless someone on Zoom would like to speak.
If I may.
Jack,
Mr.
do we have
Chairman.
anything? to
Yes, I
report?
would like to, as a part of the public hearing, to put on the record the staff report that's in the packet, as well as the site exhibit document that's in there. And for your edification, we also have the CUP required findings document, kind of gives you an explanation of how the process works on a conditional use. This is our second conditional use permit in the last year, and the third in the last 16. So we haven't had many of them. Last document I would ask to be entered on the record for this is that the draft proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law document as well. It has the potential ordinance that would go to the board if this is recommended either way. And that's all I have. If there are any questions, we can address that in the next section, but I just wanted to have the record showing that there's evidence and support. The applicant is here, but I think he's fine either way. If you want questions, we can get to him later.
All right, anyone on Zoom, like to speak? All right, we're going to close public hearing. We move on to the discussion on the conditional use permit at 14820 North Industrial Drive, the transfer station. Do you have any comments?
I think we would need to first have a motion.
Oh,
A
to
second.
approve?
Yeah,
Right,
motion, second, and then we do the discussion.
All right, I need a motion to approve the conditional use permit.
I make a motion, we approve.
Sorry, now discussion.
I have some questions.
Sure.
Reading through, I guess the required minimum requirements. I wanted to know under item 6, where it talks about adequate utility drainage and other such necessary facilities have been or will be provided. I highlighted any potential problem waste will be sent to the wastewater treatment facility.
Yes,
What about hazardous waste?
that would be a problem waste. Anything that we don't want running over the ground would
Okay,
go into the sanitary sewer,
and it's okay for hazardous waste? I
depending
guess,
on
to
what
go
it
there.
is, depending on what the wastes are.
Okay,
If there's a regular problem, our codes allow the city to come back and say, you need a pretreatment.
Okay.
For example, we thought we were going to need a pretreatment on the medical marijuana facility. But after doing a little more engineering dive, the sanitary sewer folks were able to say, oh, no, we don't need that pretreatment the way it's set up.
okay, and then on item 7, adequate access roads or entrance and exit drives will be provided and shall be designed to prevent traffic hazards and to minimize traffic congestion in public streets and alleys. Do we know what the weight of these vehicles will be coming into the industrial park?
Not specifically, but
Okay.
they will be the same weight as the dumpsters that run through town now.
Okay. I was just curious about if there were a lot of those, if that would be additional wear and tear on that street.
Well, in part it will be, but it won't be any different as it relates to the industrial road construction. Higher standards of roads for industrial roads in this district because of that specific issue.
So the entrance into the industrial park down there now was built to that standard when that was put in?
I would assume so. It was built 25, 30 years ago. And it's had fire trucks running up and down it that will be as heavy as any of these dumpsters will be.
Okay.
And there's never been an issue, so.
I have a question too on number 7 about the waste. The waste will be coming from other areas other than just Smithville?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so this is basically going to be a hub or basically a recycling center for construction.
The operations will be that the trash comes in a dumpster that you see Huntley disposal trailers or whatever, those roll-offs. They will only have construction and demolition waste in them. They will go into a proposed building. They will be dumped in there. In the building, it'll be sorted in there. So you don't have to worry about like in a landfill, you have to worry about the blowing trash and those issues. You don't have to worry about that inside a building. If there's any materials that are the hazardous or whatever that liquid related, they would go down a drain. Being inside, you don't have to worry about the stuff getting rained on and draining. This is kind of the best of both worlds from that perspective. If you look at the document that shows the site exhibit, and it's got a close up and a far out version. On both of them, you'll see on the left side a tract A that's identified as tract A. You will see later in a future hearing here in this meeting related to the plat itself. That area is a detention basin for stormwater. It's very large, as you can tell on the document. It's 3 or 4 acres. And that is for all of the waste, the stormwater, from the entire development area. This developer or this project, if it is approved zoning wise, will have to come back for site plan approval. And then they will have to do an update to that evaluation for stormwater as to whether they have to have their own stormwater detention to slow it out. So there will be a complete another bite at the apple from your perspective to take a look at the regulations on that.
Any other questions?
From a procedural standpoint, I will, like we did on all the others with findings of fact, I will clarify that the document you have is a proposed findings of fact. It has in this case, 8 items, the 8th of which is that the testimony at the public hearing, which was the evidence we entered, was considered when you make this. Everything else are those items that you went through 1 through 7. These are proposed findings. If you want to, you can do it however you would like. You can do 1 vote for all of them. If it passes, that means each one of the proposed findings are found. If you have a concern or would like to change any one of those items, you just need to make a motion to amend paragraph 4 or whatever, and see how that goes. If we do make an amendment on one of those, you can vote individually on each one of them as well. But if you don't have any questions or concerns with the draft as proposed, you can vote on all 7 at once, with the recommend approval and make the findings as shown.
All right, does anyone have any issues with voting on this as a whole?
I don't.
Okay, we'll move forward.
Okay, Mayor Boley,
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
Deb,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
Billy,
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson,
Aye.
7-0.
This will go to the Board of Aldermen as an ordinance that you have a draft copy of at the, for first reading at the next Tuesday night's meeting. It will have to be read twice, so the second meeting will be sometime in August.
All right, next up, we'll open a public hearing for the single phase final plat for a 2-lot subdivision, First Park, 3rd plat. Jack, do you have anything to enter?
Yeah, same thing as I did before. You have a copy of the first plat document, the proposed first plat document. You have a copy of the staff report associated with that plat. To clarify, this is a single phase final plat because the location of the road that you see is slightly different than what's in the approved preliminary plat. But since this is the completion of the entire subdivision, this is all the land owned by the developer. This procedure of a single phase final plat allows it to happen the same way. It melds both of them together. The single phase or the preliminary plat that was in place prior had this road approximately 60 feet further to the east. That's the only difference. But if you make a slight change from the preliminary plat that's been approved, you have to redo it. And in this case, since we're not redoing it for a bunch of phases, it's just this one. It's a single phase final plat.
So it's basically just moving the road.
Yeah, basically.
Do you have any additional public comment? No,
No,
anyone?
not
This-
unless someone via Zoom.
So you have to come up, state your name for the record.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Can I see the?
Thanks.
My name is John Coolman. My family owns the property to the west of there. So,
Can you state your address, please?
the address would be my address or the property address?
Your address.
2112 South Apache Street, Olathe. So my question is, it's this property here,
No, it's the big property.
this one?
Yeah.
Okay. So my question, I just want to make sure that whatever's built there doesn't cause more runoff down onto the backside of my property.
Yeah.
And
And ultimately, to clarify, the building hasn't been proposed yet, just the zoning has. And this tract A is the stormwater detention area. It has not been specifically designed, but a stormwater study has been completed.
so we don't know what the buildings would be there, but you have a plan in place to catch the stormwater.
Yes, and that was the purpose of the other thing in the previous hearing. The site plan will have to be brought forth so that they can build the building, and they will have to do an additional stormwater update as to what theirs is going to do to that base.
And is there any time frame on that future development that is public knowledge?
No, at this point. If nothing, right now, nothing's approved, so there's nothing moving forward.
That's it for my motion.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, with that, we will go ahead and close the public hearing. Next item is to discuss the single phase final plat, first part, third plat to create 2 lots. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Jack, do you have anything else to add?
No, this is nearly identical to what you previously approved from the preliminary plat. And if they didn't move that road, you wouldn't be seeing this anyway. A final plat could have went directly to the Board of Aldermen as long as it complied with that preliminary plat. It didn't. So now we're here. You guys are now looking at it from that perspective. 2 lots in the industrial subdivision. They're all zoned I-1. And it would be a short, like I said, it's a short road extension. We haven't seen the plans, design plans for any of that yet. But if this is approved as the final plat for it, they'll submit those and they can start construction immediately.
Any other questions? All right, let's go.
Billy?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Deb?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Mayor Boley?
Aye.
7-0.
Again, this will be on next week's Board of Aldermen agenda for first reading. No, I take that back. This is not an ordinance, so it'll be on as a resolution for final approval at next week's meeting.
Move on to item 8, site plan review for Smithville self-storage. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Jack, I'll give you the opportunity to speak first.
Sure. You have in the packet, you were given copy of the plans for the self-storage facility. On it, you will see just 4 pages. The rest of the document has a lot of engineering data and stuff. It's on the website if you want to look at it, but this is the stuff that's kind of important for today. And that is they're looking at adding the final, in this case, 8 buildings. 8 buildings on the extreme west edge of their property. It backs up to the detention basin for KCIRV, which is north of them. So it will be part of this area. In addition, in that extreme northwest corner of this is where KCIRV actually has buildings to go around it. There's already a 6-foot privacy fence installed for it on the property line. So it basically covers all of those things. The building design and look is designed to match everything that's in place. You won't be able to see most likely any part of these, maybe the rooftops of the north buildings, because it's so far back. And if you are down on 144th Street, and if you look up there now, you can barely see the existing buildings. This is going to be right in the same location. So there's no real visual impact on anyone. The landscaping requirements, staff's recommendation is that in the front of the building, of the existing facility where the fence is, you can see it from the 169 side, is to have them put in a small amount on that corner. It's not a very big area, but inside the fence in a pea gravel area that they have already to enhance the visual aspect of it. We had originally discussed with them the option of putting it outside the fence to kind of put stuff along there. Their area is so narrow, they have enough for a mower. So if they put stuff in, they wouldn't be able to get back to mow it. And keeping that stuff mowed is more important than the rest of it. So from an aesthetic look, that's the staff's recommendation. It's in our site plan or our staff report that addresses all those ideas. The only, like I said, the only condition on it is that they add just the landscaping up front, not on the area. And the applicant is here in the back. You have any questions of them?
Any questions?
Okay, Rob,
Is this a vote? So aye.
Deb,
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
Mayor Boley,
Aye.
Billy,
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson,
Aye.
7-0.
Again, this will be a resolution at next week's board meeting, 7 PM.
All right, we'll go to item 9, site plan review for the Smithfield Transportation Facility. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
All right, Jack, we have a report.
Yes, the staff report is here. And again, as I did with the other document, I provided 1, 2, 3, 4 pages out of the plan in the packet document, but on the website, the entire plan set was available for review. The issues that we're primarily worried about were in a standard site plan is, did they do a stormwater? They do, they have it. Did they do a traffic in this case? Because it's a new facility. Yes, they did it. It was, since their access point is on to 92 highway, MoDOT has to review it. MoDOT has approved it with no changes to the facility, the access point on the 92. And then we have the building look and the buffering from adjacent properties. In this case, I don't know if it's the first or the last page. I think it's the last page of your packet item. It shows the amount of trees and bushes along that north property line. That's the area that is adjacent to Stonebridge. So where there's the only residential area around it. They've got it significantly beefed up through there. They also have a security fence that's around the perimeter of it. And staff's recommendation, as it's in the staff report, is for approval, but conditioned upon that they make the north side of that fence site obscuring. There are 3, I think it's 3 units of the Stonebridge villas that face south on that road. So they will be looking straight at this facility, while the landscape buffering is significant and probably will knock out most of the look. That site obscuring fence, we would recommend that it be installed. The reason we don't have a site obscuring fence all the time around this entire perimeter is because this isn't considered storage, it's a parking lot. That's the difference.
Is there any changes to the fencing ordinance for them? Do they need a certain height or something like that, or just?
No, it'd be my recommendation is a standard 6-foot site obscuring fence, just like we have for storage, but in this case, it's to add a little bit more buffer to those 6.
So that's all, that's me where they park all the buses then?
Instead of over at Reggie's house.
And do we know if this lot is going to be completely full, or do they have room for growth? I mean, what's the?
No, it's pretty much covered. It's laid out here and covered.
You're talking about number of buses they have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, just number, just in case they,
Yeah,
if they need to add on to this later on or something.
they won't be able to add on to this. They just don't have room. They'd have to create another
So
facility.
what's going on with the gate then? Is that gonna be the
And it-
gate on 92 there?
Yeah,
That
they're,
stays the same? or-
no, it goes away. MoDOT approved it. They've got a left turn and a right turn lane coming out. But according to the traffic study presented and MoDOT approved, no additional lanes were required on 92.
Were residents of Stonebridge given letters to let them know that this,
No, we don't provide notices on site plan,
okay,
only those required by state law do we provide the
okay, so
notice.
this wasn't required by state law. then.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah, no. And this would have been, a ton of them.
On the southwest side, is that more parking spots or what is that on the southwest side?
Southwest side,
The photometric plan.
oh, let me,
Come on, right here, right? Yeah, I would say parking, but that's.
I didn't see them.
Yeah, this is like parking, kind of the same size,
You
right?
can see like the
This is
buses.
going to
right
be
here.
all the school buses.
On the.
Yes.
right, okay.
The park some inside, I'm sure. and we'll have-
yeah, I see what you're talking about. I don't see it on the photometric plan may have been presented to the lighting engineer on an original version versus the new version. Those extra spaces, if that's what they are, aren't in the current iteration. And that may be if they have a need, as you indicated, for future. It looks like they have enough room to do some angle parking in there.
Are they gonna burn that up or something on that side with that fence? Are they gonna burn that at all or raise it up?
On the north side?
Yeah.
Probably. It does. I don't think the grading plan showed it being bermed up. They're going to have it sloping to the east because their detention basin is that area over by their road.
That north side's a lot higher. I just happened to drive by there today with the big
I was
equipment
just thinking
moving
about the
stuff
lights.
and
the
just,
light- they
yeah.
got Light poles there, so I was
Yeah.
thinking this.
Yeah.
the
Well, they're
townhouse is
lo-
looking right at it. So
Yeah. Well, their lighting is
should be directional.
well, yeah, it goes down and the photometric plan has it at zeros all the way around the perimeter, or 0.1 is the highest, I think, around the perimeter,
So there,
which is,
so Stonebridge and everywhere around will be shielded from the light.
Yeah,
then?
yeah.
Okay.
they will have lights, they will see them. But it won't be that oppressive light. When we redid the site plan to include photometrics, we had a foot candle level that they had to be on there, and that's what these plans show.
So they won't be getting the midnight sun then?
No,
Okay.
nope.
I'm curious about the trees and the power lines. Because I looked at the type of trees that's going to be put along the south side along 92 highway, and the power lines are there overhead.
Mhm.
Those trees can get 40 to 80 feet tall.
And I think,
So are they gonna change those type of trees there? Or are they gonna just,
well, I believe the way where they have them placed are far enough away. That will be a discussion point with them that obviously you can't plant them into it because that's a main supply line for the area, and Evergy will certainly butcher those trees like they butcher everybody else's trees if they get close. So they've got them, it appears to me as though they're far enough away. That will be a conversation we hold with them to make sure don't get it too into the trees, that they'll come down. So
I didn't know if there was an option for a shorter tree. So,
sure, we can discuss it with them. The provisions in the site plan do address specifically overhead. If when they get out there and they get the planning area, if it appears as though it's going to be problematic with the lights, we will discuss it with them directly that you need to get a smaller stature tree. We don't want it getting into the power lines, and for multiple reasons. One being the risk to the system. We don't want power getting knocked out with those trees coming down or whatever. The other thing is trees that get real tall and have to get butchered, they just are unsightly. They don't look good. So
Are they going to stay away from invasive species?
they've got their listed species. I don't believe any of them are there are no Bradford pears
Thank God.
that I could read. That's hard for me to read even on my zoomable desktop. But yeah, I didn't see Bradford pear.
Well, if you look at the aerial, I don't know how accurate the aerials are still on Google, but the middle building looks like it's got about 20 evergreens between it and the property too. And the others have a few.
Yeah,
so-
yeah, there's some existing stuff, and all those trees that you see are not on this property. They're on the city property that's
Yeah.
just north of
So there's
this.
quite a bit of trees to the north already.
Yeah.
Yeah, that power line actually cuts from like midway through this over to the church. It angles through there, so
Yeah, yeah, their service line goes through.
you can kind of see it on this map, I think. Landscaping plan.
And as I indicated on the previous one, we have, this is there was a site or a stormwater plan or stormwater study and a traffic study conducted. Both of those are available on the website under the agenda for tonight, not on the packet, but on other documents, simple because they were so large that they wouldn't be able to be sent to you all. So that's why we also edited down to the important pages on the document here, including the building, which meets all of our standards as well. Defined middle, base, and the pretty side faces where it's supposed to face and all those things. So like I said, staff recommendation is approval with the condition that that north part become site obscuring on that fence.
Additional protection for Stonebridge.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Yes.
All right, do we have any public comment?
Nope, not unless anyone's on Zoom.
All right, does anyone have any objection to approving all of the items as a whole? All right, so
Okay. Alderman Wilson,
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Billy.
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
Mayor Boley,
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
and Deb,
Aye.
7-0.
all right, let's move into our final topic tonight.
Yep.
The discussion of the short-term rental ordinance. This should be fun.
Yes, this is the, I've had several entities, commissioners, homeowners associations ask about whether we have one of these, whether we don't have one of these. It's kind of the short-term rental. If anybody's unaware, it's an Airbnb, a Vrbo, any of those things that are, and this proposed draft was submitted to me with a, hey, can we at least have the planning commission talk about it? And my intent for discussion is to see if this is a path you all want to consider. If it's not a path, then we don't have to go into a whole lot of depth into it. But I think from your standpoint, at this point, to kind of discuss what it includes, what it doesn't include, issues, whatever, and then we can, if you want to move forward with something, we can move with a more complete draft that addresses some of those things. And then we can put it out for the public notice that gets put in the newspaper and have a public hearing on it and go from there. But don't need to go through all those processes. If this is an absolute non-starter for you all, we don't really need to press it harder. So it's a rough draft. It doesn't include anything other than the basic bones of one. And we, as we didn't draft it, staff didn't draft it, we have no opinions one way or the other on this. I have opinions about the concept. If you want them, I can address those issues when you guys get into your discussion. Other than that, issues are kind of yours to throw out. Do we want to go this way? If so, what aspects of this are excellent, problematic, super troubling, you know? So,
Jack, I appreciate you taking time on this. I know a couple of the commissioners have brought this up, and I know that there are STRs in town and business owners have put substantial investment into those. They've been used during a lot of our events here in town. We have a big wedding venue. They're used then. There's graduations because we don't have hotels. I know people are just want to get ahead of, they don't want to get what had just happened in Kansas City where they've, invested in these properties and then are told they need to leave. So thanks for taking time on this one. And appreciate any feedback you have and also the other commissioners, because I know quite a few people brought this out as a potential thing to look at.
Sure, sure.
So in essence, I mean, this is really to just kind of give those that are doing these some guidance.
Yeah,
and,
really it is.
Any investment opportunities in the future for folks, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know the way Kansas City's kind of approached it is people are selling their Airbnbs in KC now because of the changes. But unincorporated Platte County, you can't have them due to some old rule on the books. Some subdivisions don't allow them for HOAs, but inside of Platte City, non-HOA, non-Platte County, you can have them. So like, just clarification on, if you can have one or not. HOA rules still apply. If your HOA doesn't allow short-term rentals, great, but there's a lot of non-HOA areas of Smithville as well. So Rob, do you have anything to add? I know you're
Yeah, just,
staying in a short term right now because you're in Eureka Springs. You doesn't look like you're in a hotel.
I am in an Airbnb as we speak. Yeah, so I am in favor of getting something in writing on the books. What happened in Kansas City was they had an unenforceable ordinance in 2018. It was unenforceable for several reasons, but at the end of the day, the popularity of short-term rentals has exploded over the past 5 years. The fact that the ordinance was unenforceable led to a lot of, from a short-term rental perspective, and oversaturation in some neighborhoods. From a neighborhood perspective, just too many short-term rentals inside of a very small area. And so the city decided, rather than try to go back and correct their own mistakes, they essentially banned all new short-term rental licenses from ever being issued in a residentially zoned property. And so I think getting something on the books that one addresses safety issues, getting some level of standard safety that inside of Smithville, every single property is going to have smoke detectors and fire extinguishers and carbon monoxide detectors. That's a minimum. And then limiting and addressing oversaturation, whether it's, you can only have one per block, or I think 5% of the available housing stock. Issues like that, getting it on paper and getting in front of this is key to the success and future of short-term rentals in Smithville.
What do we estimate the current housing or the current percentage of housing stock is used for these right today?
Not very many. We have probably 4,000 parcels in town that have sewer service, water service.
So we're about 3,300 single family.
Yeah, and that it's single family versus multifamily. We have so we've got, I'd say 3,500 is probably a good number of dwelling units that we have in town. And I wouldn't say we have 1%.
Rob, does that sound accurate based on your software? You search the area and you can see how many there are, right?
I can get a
Go on,
pretty
sir.
good idea. We're well under 1%. I think there might be 12 to 15 total short-term rentals inside the city limits of Smithville right now.
I think the sooner we do this, the better, because if someone goes and buys a block and wants to make all 5 of those into Airbnbs right now, they can.
Sure.
And then we enforce something like this later and you've got what you've got in Kansas City. So these are very good parameters to start with. I know you said it's a rough draft, but everything that, Rob was addressing is in there. A percentage, how many per block, how many per multi-dwelling, all that's in here. And I think it's a real good start.
I have to agree. As John, and I'm on our board of directors for our homeless association, and the president of our homeless association had read through this and she thought it was tight. As do I, and still had some questions. Looking at, it, I agree, we need to move forward with something like this in order to have some form of control and protection for the neighborhoods as well as for the business people who want to have this. I had sent some information to Jack, I think it was a couple years ago.
It was in 22, I'm pretty sure. I think
Was it
just,
22?
yeah,
All right.
early
Well,
last
we,
year, I
we had
think.
a gentleman who.
Could have been
moved-
21.
Yeah,
Arizona, it was last year.
Yeah,
pardon?
it was last year, I thought.
The Arizona reference that you had.
Yeah, the gentleman from Arizona moved into our subdivision and he was really wanting to know for certain that his property was going to be safe because where he was in Arizona, the whole darn subdivision practically was inundated and there was no control over anything. It was party central all the time. So with this, and I was reading through this and saw the decibel device. Like, yeah, let's do that.
Well, I think existing residents would
Yeah.
appreciate having, your next door, the house next door becomes an Airbnb and suddenly you've got wild parties with 20 people in there and this would limit, or at least govern that. It might not limit it, but it would govern it so that it couldn't continue to occur.
I would agree with that. I mean, because not everybody lives in a subdivision that's an HOA.
Right.
So this would be a good way to protect the citizens.
There's,
that
and
do
there's
not
several that
live
aren't, yeah, so it would be a
in
good way to protect.
communities.
We've seen it happen in the subdivisions where the rental corporations have bought them for
Mhm.
rentals, right? Like Meadows and others, but
If I could.
Yeah, and
Go ahead, Rob.
well, I would like to address the that popular conception of Airbnb party houses. I live in this space. I currently manage 25 short-term rentals. I know that Airbnb party houses, their YouTube videos and TikTok videos and headlines, I can assure you that there is no one in our industry that wants or would allow a party house. The management doesn't want it, ownership doesn't want it, the cleaners certainly don't want it, the neighbors don't want it, the city doesn't want it. Does it happen? Occasionally, yes. And I think the good operators will do everything they can to filter that out. But the popular conception that an Airbnb moves in next door and there's going to be wild parties every weekend, if that's the case, that owner and that manager is going to spend so much time and money repairing the house that it really won't be available on Airbnb moving forward. So I do just want to address that the Airbnb party house conception is not as accurate as maybe the headlines want us to believe.
And Rob, I don't know if you get that much demographic data on short-term rentals when they do book, but from the ones I've interacted with at our coffee shop and other places, they're typically older, here for some sort of event. You're not getting 20-year-olds typically coming to Smithville.
No, that's accurate. We get construction workers coming to town for 3 weeks or 3 months working on the Meta Center. We get small families coming to town and maybe they're going to a Royals or a Chiefs game and they're staying in Smithville and spending their dollars in Smithville. It's the early days of Airbnb party houses. Even Airbnb is cracking down on it. If you're under the age of 25 and you're renting an Airbnb within so many miles of your zip code where your profile shows, Airbnb will block that reservation.
I've noticed there's an approval process in most of the places I've rented now too, where you don't get immediately accepted to rent it. They profile you,
Right.
which is a good thing.
Yeah, it is. And I very much appreciate this as an HOA board member, and also as a tourist. I have rented places like this. And at one time, I was a managing partner for a condominium in Silverthorne, Colorado. And so I'm really familiar with what you run into a lot of times. And we had a hard and fast rule back before any of this got real popular. Under no circumstances would there be spring break in that unit. So.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I very much appreciate this.
I will say, going forwards, I think we need something, but I think there will be a great demand for this in Smithville if we can't get a hotel. So we need to put something in place and hopefully more of them will come from the standpoint. There's a lot of golf tournaments that are
Mhm.
held out at Paradise Point. And there are people that this last 3 days was from all over the state of Missouri for a high school tournament. And they continually call asking, where's the closest hotel? Or do you have any Airbnbs? And they
Shoal
have to
Creek
tell them,
does
go to
too.
Kearney, you have to go somewhere else. So there is a demand here and I think it will continue to grow.
I do too.
I think, Rob, the biggest weekend for the entire Kansas City Metro was just last weekend, right? With a little bit of concert that went on in Case at Arrowhead.
Yeah, that small concert that happened a month after Kansas City shut down 1,700 Airbnbs. And they have World Cup coming in 2026. The demand, there's nowhere near the supply to meet the demand that we have right now.
Somebody had a funeral in town and they couldn't find a hotel within, I think the closest was Topeka. For the weekend.
If I may, just a couple of points, and Rob just brought up the first one, which was going to be, if we are going to do this, we need to do it sooner rather than later because of the World Cup, because it will dwarf the concert.
Oh, no, Taylor's bigger than World Cup. Come on.
Yeah. That concert was a weekend.
How much you
The
spend?
World Cup stuff will be two
I
and a
know.
half weeks.
Yeah, I know.
So it's going to be significant.
Bigger
Um,
than Taylor Swift.
Yep.
Every night.
Every time. And those folks are going to be here and their team may have 2 games a week and a half apart. They're not flying home for them. They stay. So you're going to have a lot of stuff. So we need to stay ahead of it. The other thing from my perspective is the planning and zoning arm of the development department. And that is the 30,000-foot view of the impact of short-term rentals on the affordable housing or workforce housing costs. The more houses that you have in the STR range makes it a little harder to keep the houses affordable because you're taking houses off the market. So
And Jack-
supply and demand.
Yeah, and that's
becomes-
kind of my concern, my main concern with this. I'd like maybe on the multifamily dwellings portion, it says 25% occupancy or 1 unit, whichever is greater. I'm curious if that isn't an appropriate number.
And that, to be quite frank, was just a starting point. It's in there. I think those are the issues. From my perspective, the purpose of putting this on the agenda tonight for this kind of discussion was to see if we needed to spend the money to advertise it, to get it out to the public, and to start thinking about those bigger issues. It's clear that everybody's on board. So from that perspective, I will now take a look at what's in here, a little more detailed. I will craft it to fit our city versus in our structure. So it could be a proposed draft. Based upon the comments I've heard now, we'll have a rough draft that is one step above this for the next meeting. It will be advertised to the public in the paper, and we can go from that perspective. Most of the stuff that's in here will be brought forward. I think the issues that we really need to look at will be that density. If there's a cap on the total number, et cetera, those issues can become, individually. Parking is the other aspect of it.
Can we look at like October, November agenda? So you get plenty of time to look into this and get feedback?
Yeah. Yep.
Or later.
We
No
did-
sooner than October.
That's up to you all. If you guys want to.
See it sooner if we could.
I mean, I'd rather,
I just know
Jack's
Jack's,
taking enough time to really make sure we get this plan, but I mean, I want to make sure that maybe you work on it and then we kind of have a couple of check-ins before then, just to make sure we're.
Well, I would suggest that if we propose to schedule this for September for the first meeting, where we get it advertised to the public, I can get a draft together. And then we can have that. It doesn't mean that coming out of September, there's a recommendation for or against. It's just we have the public hearing and we hold it. And if it's decided, hey, we want to kick it another month, we can do that.
What do you think the biggest challenge? You think density is, it would be the biggest issue, or do you think, what do you think the biggest challenge with this will be?
Um,
You think
well, World Cup, looking at it from the World Cup scenario, it's going to be parking, would be my concern.
a lot of those will be
Well, yeah, so-
Airbnb and mass transit too with the World Cup. Just
Yeah.
Working on it from the Metro Planning Organization standpoint. We're working on we're bringing in buses from Chicago or wherever we need to
And that
facilitate
part I
this.
understand, but they won't be
Yeah.
driving to Smithville through the neighborhoods and picking them up.
Right. Well,
So,
possibly.
yeah, yeah.
We're working on transportation hubs and
And
things. but-
depending on how it is, you may have, we have, let's say Costa Rica makes it and they are here. You may have, 5 different groups of couples or something that rent a 4-bedroom Airbnb and that know each other, but all want to have their own. They don't all want to ride in the same car. You could have 4 or 5 cars there showing up. So
Yeah.
I think parking could be an issue. The other thing is the density that I think Rob has identified in here fairly well. I don't know that 5% is a reasonable number.
We had 4,000, that's 200.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
But if we were talking 100 or under, maybe, but those are the issues that need to be kicked out to the public and you guys think about them and you can do your own independent internet research to find issues that you find that we may not even have discussed tonight.
What on that plan, it was talking about, that they would have to do the same, tourism taxes. What do we have for that today?
We don't have one. And
But we need a certain amount of units, right, for that to occur?
so for the state to allow us to have it, yes.
Yes.
And it has a number of beds, not number of rooms. So like with the Super 8, where they have 2 beds in a room, that counts as 2 beds, not just 1 room.
So
So we need to get to about 283, I think, total.
Okay.
But these wouldn't count towards it in their current rules. But one thing we can make that fee structure however we want, because this is written obviously for somebody that does have one. And if we did it like a per bed fee per year, if you pay,
Yeah.
$300 a year per bed or whatever set fee, that probably calculates out better than trying to do a percentage collection for the whole thing. Then we know you're registering it, you're paying, just like a dog license, you pay the fee once in the year and you're good to go.
Yeah.
I think we tie it to the business license fee like we,
Yeah, I mean, I think this would be a business license scenario. I don't know that we want to get into a
Tax.
But we
you
don't
gotta
have
pay
to.
per bed
yeah.
scenario, because I would assume this provision was written for a community that has a transient guest tax. But if it's in our ordinance and we ultimately get one, then it's automatically, they have to pay those taxes.
Yeah, we'd have to have a substantial hotel come in to get to where, and then have the state of Missouri allow us to do it.
Well, you got to have a certain number of those
Yeah.
beds to even get the authority from the state legislature to
To put on the
Conduct-
ballot.
to ask the voters if that's something they want.
It has to be earmarked for a specific thing.
So
All right.
that's down the road, but yeah, so.
And as far as the business licenses, does this mean, or are we shooting to have a license per unit? Or can one company come in and buy a bunch of these and only pay one business?
No, I would think it's a registration fee. So if you're going to do it in this scenario, I think you're going to have a business license. 20 units, you've got a business license, but you have 20 Airbnb permits to authorize it, because we have to know where they're at. And we're going to be doing inspections of these as they go. So we're going to need to have that information. We have to set the fees at a level that reimburses the city for the costs of staff to go out and do all this stuff. The taxpayers shouldn't be fronting that or covering that, to be quite frank. This should purely be a business expense.
Yeah, especially if we require carbon monoxide and
Yeah.
fire extinguishers. That's typically not done in a house inspection by our guys anyway, so we have to go
Well,
out after the fact.
If it's a new home, we do all of those things in according to the building code.
Fire extinguishers.
No, not fire extinguishers,
Yeah.
but the CO2
Yeah,
and the
most-
smoke.
But most of these aren't gonna be new construction. They're gonna be somebody
Yeah,
purchased and we go out. and
exactly.
inspect. So it's an extra
That'd be-
inspection.
That'd be
Yeah.
easy to wrap into the permit when they do it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just,
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at, right? Is that we're not just,
I mean,
I
that's.
don't want one person to be one and done, I want to make sure that, if there's
Well, and
multiple buildings,
That's such a
we're
low
compensating that.
standard.
Yeah, well,
That-
the
that
other
should
thing
just
is,
be-
the other
anyway.
thing is this has to be an annual fee because we need to go out and annually inspect these. Because if, a guest happens to destroy the CO2 monitor, and the owner didn't catch it or doesn't pay attention to it, there's that risk out there. We would go in and do our inspections associated with those things. So we annually do it. The fee wouldn't have to be huge. It just have to cover the ability for one inspector to go out and do whatever the inspections are. We would set the fee based upon estimated time of staff, just like we do any other fees.
So you're talking one business size, whether they have one unit. or 20.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And then
permits
you have
underneath
unit
it.
fees.
Permits
Yeah, because there's
underneath
two
it.
aspects of it. If you have a business, in this case, it's like a hotel.
Right.
So you'd have to have the hotelier would have to have it. And then we have a separate layer of regulation over each unit because that's where we have to go do the individual inspections. Once a house is built here, unless they have a fire damage or something, we don't ever go back and inspect on the inside to make sure it meets all these standards. The only time we ever do that is if a tenant on a long-term rental usually calls and says, there's a problem here in my place. My landlord won't do anything about it. Can you guys come out and inspect? And we will then go out and inspect for the property maintenance code standards. We also, going into those scenarios, we notify them. If we find violations that are serious, we will put a not fit for human habitation tag on here and you'll have to move. Usually that's what they're hoping for. They're trying to get out of a lease and that, they got a bad landlord, got whatever. But that's when we go in. To be quite frank, that process is what caused the old hospital apartments to get shut down in 2007. They had water coming out of electrical conduit from a leak in the roof.
I'm sure it's on GFI, right?
Yeah. So we shut that down. It was only 3 units, but it shut it down. And that was on December 7th. And by January 15th, the owner had pulled the plug on the whole deal and filed bankruptcy and went out. That's the only time we've ever shut down a rental facility. And it was because some of the tenants were concerned about water coming out of their lights.
Something about water and electricity.
it's still fiber, right?
Yeah.
Question.
Water lines.
Mhm.
Say you have somebody buys an older home.
Mhm.
It has to pass a certain inspection in order to be an area.
Deb, could you speak up or turn your mic on? I can't hear you.
So a person buys an older home in town and they want to put it into this program.
Mhm.
You guys will go out and inspect it. What if it doesn't meet code? Does that owner have to bring that property up to current code in
Well,
order to have it in this program?
the good thing is, my answer is, I don't know. You guys are the ones going to be proving this. But that's an issue that I think we need to discuss. And how far up do they have to go?
Right.
The reason why the existing building code exists is for this exact purpose. You'd shut down, nearly every home in Smithville that's older than, 1990. They would all be in violation of the code.
True.
Because none of them have been updated to that extent. So we don't want to go there.
Okay.
But yeah, the general safety issues, the stuff contained in the property maintenance code, not the building code,
Life safety.
life safety. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. If you got a stairway that doesn't have guards on it, yeah, sorry, that ain't gonna work. You got to put guards on it.
Sort of basically basic safety.
Mhm.
Okay.
smoke detector, carbon monoxide detector.
Okay.
And the basic, trip and fall, all those little things that you often overlook until you have a problem.
So like a daycare license,
Huh?
like a daycare license.
Doorway to a roof.
I mean, unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever, depending on which side of that fence you sit on, we don't regulate daycares. And once they get to the big enough where they do, we can't regulate them. They go to the state. So,
Is there any other questions?
I don't have any questions, but I did write down some notes and stuff. So do you want me to share those with you, Jack, as going forwards to what you're going to draft?
Send me an email.
Or- Okay.
send me an email. If you have comments, general comments you'd like to see, at least roughed out into this proposed draft for September, send me an email. I will try to put them all in.
Can you email us this document so we can?
Yeah.
Red
Yeah.
letter it?
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, was it on the packet?
Yeah, it's on the packet.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
so
we
you
got it
you
then.
should already have
All
it,
right.
yeah.
Here, you know. You need a red pen.
The reason I asked that was here on maximum number of guests. It was just like adults only when I was reading through this one.
It says, I didn't hear, couldn't
Yeah.
hear. what-
Maximum number of guests. It was 2 adults per bedroom plus 2 adults in common living areas where you'd have a sleeper sofa and air mattress. I thought, no children.
Yeah.
So. just
Yeah, I mean,
little things like
ultimately-
that.
We're not allowing them.
I don't think children count as guests when you book for some of the STRs. Yeah.
Well, and we have
You're
the
gonna limit how many
interplay,
kids you can have.
we have the interplay of other ordinances that I'll have to be doing some research on, because we have a family definition in our single family.
You got 5 kids, you gotta
which
get
is
2
no
every
more
piece.
than 4 unrelated people in a house. I don't think these would apply specifically. And I also need to see if we need to address something related to home occupation, if that ordinance has to change. Several little issues that we need to make sure we're out there, that we make
Just a
everything.
little bit more complicated.
Yeah, it's not as,
Yeah.
this ordinance is great, but it's only half the stuff I gotta do.
Okay.
So that's why I wanted to have this conversation.
Good starting
Before we,
outline.
before we went down the path too far, there's a lot of work I gotta do. So
And it's budget time, so.
the good thing is my budget is real easy this year.
that's good.
Always is. We don't have projects to build. We've got one item on the agenda for actually you all will be doing if it gets a
Overlay.
budget. Yeah, an overlay for the south that's in the comp plan. The land around the water tower on the south end.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? All right, we're adjourned.
Thank goodness. Yeah. I was hoping somebody would say, let's delay